Hi everyone, welcome to my beginners series. I'm going to go through how to create a little sort of cottagey shed in the woods today. There's a tiny little bit of drawing which I'm just going to walk you through very quickly. So I want you to do an apex, so a sort of slanted triangle, and then I want you to pop a little bit of a side on each of these. We're going to have a little bit of a ornate bit on this sort of shed stroke summer house, so we're going to pop a little bit of a wiggly line either side, and then a little bit of like a turret there as well. And then I want you to pop in just a little door, so a little rectangle underneath it. So there's nothing too precise. You can have a little bit of a handle there as well, and then you're going to have a base just there, and in fact that is going to become your horizon line. So it's nothing too precise. This is a little bit of Saunders Waterford. It's 5 by 7 inches. I use very similar for all of this series. I've got a Cotman palette with my colours here, 3 brushes, a round number 10, a round number 6 and a size 2 rigger, and I'm going to walk you through the colours as I go. So with my round number 10, I'm going to get some water onto the sky, so I want a nice sheen. I'm going to come around this shed stroke summer house stroke cottage, and get a nice sheen here. And then I'm going to use a little bit of cadmium yellow, and I'm just going to start to create, because this is in the woods, some verticals as if there were trees there. So there's not even necessarily any sky. The sky's white behind. If you haven't got cadmium yellow, something like a raw sienna would work. I'm basically working with what I've got, which is cadmium yellow. So that was with my round number 10. I'm going to drop down to my round number 6, and what I would like now is a nice muted green. I have got here Viridian, which is not muted at all. It's very vibrant, it's emerald green, but if you take some brown into it, this is burnt umber, it will change it to a much more neutral muted green. Then what I'm going to do is swizzle round, so this has still got a very nice sheen on it, and I'm going to start to put some tree, so a few more trees in. So I find it easier with the number 6 to paint downwards to start to get those nice finer points. So I'm just bringing in, I'll come right way to the roof. This is all building up different depths of tree trunks and trees into the background. Now if I make that a little bit browner now, so I'm going to take more of that burnt umber into the mix, and I'm going to end up with like a browny green. Then I can bring some of that over. It's quite nice to do a few different angles as you're building up these trees. So that they don't all look exactly the same. With the cotton paper, it tends to stay damp for quite a while, so you have got quite a while to do this. You can swap down to a smaller brush as well if you want to. I quite like that I've got a nice flow happening here. I'm then going to dip into the alizarin crimson and take some of that into that green. So that's going to warm it up and create a warmer brown. So this is all learning colour mixing as you're going. I'm going to take some of that right where it's at the top because I'm upside down, but it's on that bottom edge and it should look quite ready. It's going to warm all this up. It's a complementary colour to the green, so it's going to work really nice, and it's also giving us our dark. You always want your dark in there. Then I will take a couple of branches up in this same colour, or trunks. I want you to take it higher in places so you haven't got one set line. In fact, I'll twizzle back round now so you can start to see that full effect. It's a really effective way of getting a nice background in. I'm getting a really lovely contrast to a foreground as well with that dark in there. Makes you definitely want to go and find this cottage. Okay, that bit's just started to dry, so what I'm going to do with that bit is I've rinsed my brush out and then it's damp, so it's not a wet brush. I'm just going to blend that through there. So I've taken that extra bit of dark in and I just need it to blend. If I take it within the green bit, I know that I've painted that now. That will work quite nicely. It's about knowing how you fix things when this happens. That's just one of those situations where you think, oh, it's a bit dry, and it's just knowing what to do. I'm going to do very similar this side now as well, because I want to keep this white, this architrave bit. So by taking this extra dark in here, it's giving it a nice contrast without me having to do much at all. So I'm just taking an extra bit of that dark in, and I'm just going to flow a few out. This side's still quite wet, so that still works quite nicely. Come around that side as well. Okay, so I'm going to dry that one off. Okay, so that's nicely dry. So if I pick up my round number 6 again, and I'm going to come into the front of the shed or summer house, and then I'm going to take a little bit of that cadmium yellow again. And that's going to be my base. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit mucky, I'm going to take some of that reddy brown in. So this is the reddy brown coming in. So if you had raw sienna, you could use raw sienna on there. And then I want you to do some downward strokes. I'm getting all the way up to this architrave bit that I want to keep nice. So it's like vertical strokes. It's starting to create the wood feel. Take a little bit of the alizarin crimson in. So it's still got a little bit of the brown on, which works ideally. So I'm just going to take a few strokes of that in as well. So I'm starting to get a really nice blend. And then I'm going to dip into I've got ivory black or Payne's grey, and just bring it darker just underneath. So that's going to set that contrast. It's going to work really effectively. And stroke down a few times. I'm going to pick up my round number 10, You get a base of water in the bottom. I'm going to leave a tiny line of white in between so that it doesn't blend into the shed area. Bring this is the cadmium yellow coming through, so I just want to start to get a base on here, and then I'm going to come into the alizarin crimson. This is really warming this area up. I want this area to look different to this area so that the contrast works with the composition. Then I'm going to take some of this dark brown, just bring that, and I'm touching that edge, but I'm leaving tiny little gaps. This is called lost and found edges. So I want to have some little highlights there as a contrast and a highlight. So I'm just going to start to bring a little bit of that brown through. I'm going to take a little bit more of that viridian into that brown mix now. So if any of these you run out, then you're just building it back up. So that's the viridian and a little bit of the burnt umber, so it makes it more green. This is a sort of a dark scene within the woods, so you haven't got the grassy greenness that you would normally have. So we're making this with the darker greens and the reds and the browns. So I'm just going to pop some of that green in, horizontal strokes, but I want to leave some of the other colours showing, so don't eliminate them all. And what you can do is you can make a little path so I'm getting a little natural sort of path here. Where they would walk. Okay, I'm going to dry that one off. Okay, so it's nicely dry. Into that green mix, I'm making it browner again, so that's taking more of the burnt umber in. Then a little bit of the alizarin crimson. And really now I just want to focus on little bits of detail. I'm going to twizzle round again. I'm going to start this side and I'm going to put in a couple of sharper tree trunks. This now is all about contrast. So this is with my round number 6, and I'm also going to use my rigger. What I want is to get some additional dark in next to the sides of here. So this is then going to help that shed summer house come out. It's going to give depth because I've got the softness behind. So as I come off on these tree trunks and branches, I want to stagger them. I want them to taper. I can bring some down at different angles, they can overlap and come down. At any point, if you want to check what you're doing, you can twizzle it round and just check you're happy with the composition. I'm liking that that is coming over that way. Take another one up this way, and I'm going to bring one this way. Twizzle back round. Going to bring a bit more dark down here again to contrast that side. You can sharpen up any of your edges as well. I'm going to take a tree there. Bring a little bit lower here. And bring a tree there. Odds tend to work better than evens, so it's just choosing an odd number really. I've got 5 in here now, so that should work quite nicely. Again, just pulling different branches out, different directions. Make sure you overlap a few. Resting on my little finger tends to work best for me. If you struggle to do it this way, you can do it the other way. It all comes down to personal preference. You don't have to turn it upside down to do it. It will work the opposite way. I just find it easier to paint to a point when I am painting downwards. I feel like I'm in a little bit more control, but I can do it this way. I just feel like I'm in less control really. So I do a few this way. You can see now that you've really got that darkness there, so you start to get that drama. I'm going to take a little bit of this black in as well. So just keep it nice and low. I'm not going to take it into the trunks. I want that contrast there. So I'm just going to keep it low and to the side. Just so I'm getting a little bit more depth. All of that really helps. And then I'm going to do the same just underneath this architrave now. Now this black is not really thick. I've got some water on the brush. I want to really be able to see a bit of the colour underneath, so don't go super thick because you'll just get a stripe of black and it just won't work. Then with a steady hand, I want you to come round the edge of the door. This is helping to define your door now. You can go a little bit darker for the handle. You could have hinges if you wanted to as well. Then I'm going to start to just get a little bit of dark just at this bottom edge. So I'm keeping it quite fine. Still trying to leave an odd little bit of white. Then if I just take my brush and just dampen it, what I'm going to do is pull that dark that I've just put on upwards. So I'm not wetting the whole of it, I'm wetting like panels. So I'm creating panels in the wood. And it's just a damp, wet brush that's just pulling that up. Okay, so if I just make up a little bit more of that green, so that was a viridian with a little bit of the burnt umber. I can do some random dabs. So they're not precise. It's just an indication of a little bit of foliage. This is much more loose than some of my other pictures. You could do this with sponging. I try to show you a variety of techniques. If when you're dabbing on you just vary the pressure of your brush, you'll get different random strokes, and that works quite nicely for foliage. And a little bit more of that green. I'm just going to bring a few bits just onto the foreground or the ground, basically. Not much. If I wet my brush in clean water, I'm just going to dab into that underneath, so just one side, and just help it to flow a little bit. If I leave it, that it's just basically hard on the surface, it looks like I've just painted it onto the surface. If I blend it and just do that blend underneath, it brings it much more within the surface. Let's take a little bit more here. I don't want to do too much of this because I quite like the foreground just being plain. And then just pop a little bit of water on underneath again. Okay, so I'll dry that off and take the tape off. So there we go, the tape's taken off. It's a really pretty, effective picture there of something quite simple, just a little shed stroke summer house in the woods. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a few new techniques. I'll pop my beginners playlist just here and another video here. Please do like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you next time.